Well, there's another distinction that is being missed. The other distinction I'm referring to is the distinction between pleasure and happiness.
Of course.
Because you said culturally, because would there be something that I would offer to kind of clarify? Well, yeah. In this time period we're living, especially, there's a big misconception when it comes to pleasure and happiness. People are addicted to the triggering of certain hormonal biochemical interactions that happen in themselves, in the body, in the brain specifically. And that cuts them off from the pressure. Interesting how pleasure and pressure work together. Pressure is what is being relieved. Imagine yourself as a guard, as a soldier, as a person who's standing guard in front of a palace of your lord, of your king, of your queen, whatever. Protecting them from people coming in from the outside. Well, you're under supervision, you're under observation, you're under... you have to be alert, incredibly alert. Tight. In fact, that's why they have you wear tight clothing.
Mm-hmm.
To make you uncomfortable. The belt, the hat, the thing you have to hold, you have to go through certain steps. Everything has to be calculated. You move, and the way you are relieved from that, already there's an excitement in the mind when it's that time, when somebody comes in to relieve you, after having stood there for a few hours. It's not that. That's pressure. So when that relieving of the pressure comes in, immediately we interpret it as happiness, as the opposite of pressure. Happiness is the opposite of pressure. Happiness is the opposite of pressure. We keep saying that to ourselves, and we believe it. What are holidays?
Pressure. Release.
Yes. So people go on vacation for that. To relieve themselves of the pressure. From that tightness. From the tension. Well, that is not happiness. When you think of it. Now, addictions come in. They don't just come in because this whole pattern, people are addicted already. You don't have to be addicted to alcohol or, other things, drugs, etc., in order for you to be addicted because of those specific things, behavioral. Every one of us is addicted. Whoever is not awake, whoever is not seeing what's happening to the mind, what they are doing themselves to the mind. So long as you're going back and forth between these two ends of the pendulum, release, which is relaxation or relieving yourself from the tension, as long as you don't see this for what it is, you're going to find yourself back into the tension. Because why? You want to be there. Why? Because it felt so good. when you relieved yourself. So anybody who says, I don't like to be addicted, I don't want to be addicted, I don't want to be angry, I don't want to have these, I don't know, I don't want to steal, I don't want to lie, I don't want to engage in sexual misbehaviors, I don't want to cheat, I don't want to hurt, I don't want to yell. On the surface, it might look very even noble, but in reality, they are perpetuating the pain because they love what happens in the absence of those things. The moment the person who says, I don't want to get angry, but the conditions are there, and it builds up, builds up, builds up, builds up, builds up, and then all of a sudden there's an explosion and they release it. That feels so, well, it's a release of tension. The same thing with sexual energy being released. And then there is regret immediately. But where does happiness come in? Happiness comes in the middle of the pendulum. When the ball of the pendulum doesn't keep moving, it stops. It's not going to stop ever on its own. It requires you to take a time out from this madness and try to find a neutral ground where you are not in the vicinity of, let's say, getting angry or being addicted to alcohol or playing cards or gambling or porn or something like that, whatever it may be. You pull yourself out of that norm, of that set of conditions, but you're not going to look for the relief of those either. So your movement on the pendulum scale is becoming less and less and less and less and less shaky, less extended towards the extremes. But you're getting, emotions are slower, slower, smaller and smaller until you get to something very simple. Let's say you are suddenly noticing the texture of the sofa you're sitting on. Or you are noticing, looking over ahead of you, and let's say you're looking towards the ocean, you see the horizon line, the horizon. Or you notice a cloud, or you notice someone's wrinkles around the eye as you're talking to them, or the color of their eyes. You notice certain textures on their nose. Or you notice something they're wearing. Instead of being all flared up with your emotions because of your anticipation as to what might come out of their mouth and how it might affect you, and guess what? Already the blood is boiling. Even if they don't say something, you already are in a hyper-vigilant state with anticipation, expectations. Again, you're going to the extreme of the pendulum. You're tightening up. That's what I mean. Try this experiment. If you have a belt, tie yourself a little bit, like if you get, if it has 3 notches, let's say, and you are at the farthest end of it, try to pull your belt a little bit in so you're at the middle notch. It's going to be very uncomfortable, right? And stay like that for a few seconds, and then, or a minute, how much you can, as long as you don't endanger yourself, not treating it like a tourniquet or something. And then you release yourself. This will put you more in the control position, in the driver's seat of seeing what I'm talking about with these two extremes of the pendulum, where you pretty much did an experiment, a lab experiment in a sense, to see your dependency on tension and release, tension and release, tension and release. Hamster on a wheel, basically. You are being dictated by your conditions. That is living the life of a common person. In Buddhism, we call it putujjana. Common, ordinary, unlearned, dense person who doesn't get it. You are simply an automaton. You're just going along with it. You're basically dead. You don't know what happiness is. Why? Because majority of us are very much unaware of what truly makes us happy. So the moment the person is in the middle ground, the neutral area where there are no outlandishly loud colors, passions, you start to settle. Your breathing comes to more and more of a neutral state, normal state. And this is where the mind starts to understand that it has a much wider capacity for experiencing life, instead of the very, very limited scope of tension and release, pleasure and pain. Because when the person is an addict, which basically means everybody today, then they are living life with the tension and release, building up of painful experiences, tightening up the belt, only to release it. So these things are very much dependent on the misunderstanding between pleasure and happiness. Happiness is happening in the middle ground, where you do not have so many demands of yourself. Suddenly the mind becomes tranquil. When the mind starts to experience tranquility, something interesting happens. Thoughts become less and less and less frequent. The breathing becomes regulated. The tension of your skin changes. It starts becoming softer. Muscles that have been always tight in tension, they start to loosen up. You're going to notice you will become more and more acquainted with your body. Imagine that. And that will allow you to experience some of the happy moments that you experienced when you were a child. When nothing was, you didn't have an agenda in order for you to feel what you thought later on as an adult pleasure as happiness. Meanwhile, it was just pleasure seeking. The conditions are far less for a child to be happy. So the code with which you're working, the narrative, if you will, the logos of what you're working with. In this case, the difference between pleasure and happiness. That distinction has to be understood. Otherwise, the person is simply going to create another form of tightness, even when they go and apply something like a 12-step program, or they promise, they make the most sternest promise to themselves as possible, because of the things that are at risk of being lost, love of someone or relationship, if they don't fix this. Okay, the willpower of the person might be pretty strong and they might be able to pull it off. Yes, that does happen. But guess what they also did now? They created another tension, which will manifest in a different form. Somewhere in their life, somewhere, they're going to feel the impact of that tension. And it will require them to release it somehow. In some cases, the body will manifest it. They might get sick. A disease might show up. Headaches might show up. Or another area of their life would be affected because of their performance in that. Why? Because you create another tension. Think of a balloon that you fill up with water. Just a regular balloon. Either air or water. And then you tie it up at the mouth and then try squeezing it with one hand. Don't fill it up all the way. Just, you squeeze it and then you see the bubbling, the ballooning of the balloon in certain areas of your fingers coming out wherever there's an opening. It will squeeze itself out of any kind of an opening it will find. Why? Because there's pressure being applied. Can you see what I'm saying? So as you do that, now depending on how much pressure and tension you create or not, it either might pop, or it might loosen up as you loosen up your grip. So that is what's happening. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that release of the tension is what the person is mistakenly thinking it is happiness. Because they're equating pleasure with happiness. So that is the primary thing for them, for the person to understand. So it's not a matter of will or matter of guilt. Hey, you have to, shame on you to have this addiction. That's another tactic that people use. Or try to coerce the person. Comparing and contrasting, putting you in a group of people and somebody gets up and says, yeah, I did this, I got free from my addictions. Okay. Well, their conditions might be different than yours. That might create more tension in you. Very well, actually. It might do so. There's more chance for that to happen than for you to be so inspired that you completely let go of your tendencies. So we look at the causes. That's what we need to do. We need to have a clear understanding instead of create another form of tension. That is key. Because the mind has to reconnect with the body, reconnect with the heart. There needs to be this balancing, harmonizing, which comes through understanding of what's taking place, reconnecting with the breath to slowly smooth things out for yourself and go to a state of being natural, seeing when the anger is coming up, you're seeing it. This is special observational skills, which we call sati in Buddhism, mindfulness. And in your activities throughout your day, in your life, you're observing the body as it moves through time and space, through relationships. When someone comes in through the door, all of a sudden, instead of focusing on what's happening with them, you're noticing what's happening in you. Did your breathing change? Did you have this rush of memories suddenly, which triggered some emotions in you, and all of a sudden your fists are tight? What happened? This person just showed up, or somebody mentioned the name. All that requires you to be present, and for that we have this thing called sampajanya, a principle, which is full awareness of the body. This takes time, of course, but you'd be surprised how quickly it develops if you anchor yourself in something that is closest to you, typically the body, the breath. Feeling the skin, feeling textures around your body. And then you start to see that there's this softness about you. And you start inquiring, like, why am well, I'm supposed to be in a panic mode, but I'm not. We're in a meeting and I'm not. Everybody is panicking, but I'm not. What is going on? My breathing is normal. Why? Because you have stepped out of that pleasure and pain circuit, the feedback loop. You cut yourself loose from that because now you're beginning to experience happiness despite the outside conditions. And that's why we practice, to go deeper and deeper and deeper. The Buddha was called the unvanquishable conqueror. He wasn't like standing there against a whole slew of armies attacking him, actual armies. The armies, the enemy actually, is your ignorance of what's happening and your addiction to the repetition of this feedback loop, that you don't want to see what's really going on and take responsibility of that and change that by understanding. So there's no more new pressure coming in to force you to do something. There needs to be an understanding first. Okay, there's a difference between pleasure and happiness. Okay, let me work with that. Okay?